Beneath the flickering glow of chandeliers, in a hall lined with mirrors and murmured power, 1,000 candles trembled like stars captured in glass. The air was thick with the perfume of roses, roasted pheasant, and candied violets. At the head of a silver-laden table sat Marie Antoinette, adorned in a gown sewn with pearls, her towering coiffure defying gravity. It was 1787. Versailles shimmered in theatrical excess. Outside, the wind howled across frozen fields, where a child cried for bread. That night, a feast glittered like fantasy. But history would remember it as the prelude to a storm. She was just 14 when she crossed the Rhine. Born Maria Antonia of Austria, she became Marie Antoinette of France, her name reshaped like her destiny. Her journey to Versailles was wrapped in hope, an alliance between empires, a union meant to soothe old wounds. But the girl with soft eyes and uncertain French arrived not as a savior, but a stranger. Versailles was not a home, it was a stage, and the audience a nation. Versailles was a palace of rituals, where even waking was a performance. The queen couldn't bathe alone. She couldn't eat alone. Every move was watched, weighed, whispered about. Her simple Austrian tastes, chicken broth, chocolate scented with orange blossom, crescent pastries, offended courtiers who expected theatrical opulence. But Versailles didn't bend, it demanded. At Versailles, identity was a costume. Nobles painted their faces white, wore powdered wigs 3 feet tall, and competed not in war, but in favor. The court followed a seasonal rhythm of balls, opera, and gossip. There were fetes for any reason: a harvest, a wedding, a comet's passing. Musicians played minuets under lanterns, courtiers whispered alliances between dance steps. Behind silk fans, nations turned. In a marble room ablaze with candlelight, Marie Antoinette was served beneath the gaze of hundreds. Any man with a sword, even rented, could enter and watch her dine. She sat beside the king, silent beneath powdered wigs and formality, barely touching her food. Music played to fill the emptiness. The ritual was supposed to show divine majesty. Instead, it showed a queen out of touch, insulated by gold and etiquette. At Versailles, even seasons bowed. Pineapples in January, peas in December, strawberries coaxed from hothouses. The king's garden, Potager du Roi, grew miracles. It wasn't agriculture, it was alchemy. What the court ate wasn't just food, it was a declaration of dominion over nature. While peasants waited for grain, Versailles tasted spring and winter. Marie Antoinette adored sweets. Croquembouche, sugar sculptures, pastries kissed with violet and gold. They weren't desserts, they were cathedrals of cream and ambition. She didn't eat to indulge. She ate to distract. The whisper of home was baked into every bite of brioche. But outside, that same brioche would become a symbol of cruelty. While Versailles danced in silk, the countryside moved to another rhythm. Villages rang with the toll of church bells. Markets filled with the chatter of barter, eggs for flour, wool for bread. Children played barefoot in orchards. Families prayed for rain or sun. Life was cyclical. Feast days, planting seasons, harvest moons. The music was simpler. Pipes, fiddles, and hymns. Dances were communal, often in barnyards, with cider flowing like laughter. The 1780s brought failing harvests, brutal winters, and economic collapse. Bread prices soared. The Little Ice Age chilled both crop and spirit. In Paris, A mother might spend 90% of her income on a loaf. In villages, soup was made from weeds. Hunger became the nation's most fluent language. In October 1789, as riots simmered, Versailles hosted a banquet for the Flanders regiment. The opera house glittered, glasses clinked. The Queen appeared. Officers wept with loyalty, trampling the revolutionary cockade. Champagne spilled. That night ignited fury. To starving Parisians, the feast was a slap in the face, proof the monarchy was drunk on its own extinction. She likely never said it. Rousseau wrote the phrase years before she arrived, yet it clung to her like perfume. Let them eat brioche. Not cake, but rich bread, still beyond reach. Fact didn't matter. The image did. A queen so removed, she mistook starvation for inconvenience. It wasn't truth, it was narrative. Underground pamphlets, libels, painted her as Austria's spy, a harlot, Madame Déficit. They accused her of orgies, theft, incest, lies, most of them. But effective, truth drowned in satire. The queen became symbol, not woman, and symbols can't plead. October 5th, 1789. Parisian women, some barefoot, some with babes in arms, marched 12 miles in rain and resolve. Bread was their demand. Dignity was their cry. By dawn, Versailles gates broke. The Queen escaped through secret doors. The King gave in. They were escorted to Paris. Prisoners cloaked in silk. In Paris, Marie Antoinette became a ghost of herself. No court, no etiquette, no Grand Couvert. Meals were small, eyes always watching. Broth, bread, sometimes nothing. Rumors said she still dined like royalty. Others swore she starved. Either way, her hunger was no longer symbolic. It was real. The courtroom was not a place of justice. It was a theater, its script already written. In October 1793, Marie Antoinette stood in the shadow of the guillotine before a jury that had already made up its mind. She wore black, not mourning for her husband, already gone to the blade, but for dignity, for memory, for herself. Gone were the silks and diamonds. Now, just a widow's veil, a hollow face, and a spine still unbroken. The charges were many: conspiracy, treason, corruption. And one vile accusation that turned whispers into wounds, an incestuous lie about her son, meant not to convict, but to humiliate. When she heard it, the Queen, no longer queen, rose in silence, then spoke. "If I have not answered, it is because nature itself refuses to respond to such a charge." The court did not flinch. The public jeered. The verdict, guilty, not because of proof, but because she had become a symbol, and symbols cannot plead. She was sentenced to die the next morning, not in Versailles silk, but in a simple white chemise. No carriage, just a cart, no ceremony, just a crowd. October 1793. Her cell was cold, stone walls damp. The Queen, who once wore diamonds, now begged for clean linen. Her last meals were broth and prayer. Outside, crowds swelled. Inside, she wrote quietly to her children. Her last letter ends with, "I die in the Catholic religion in which I was born." She rode in an open cart, no veil, no plea. Her once white hair had grayed. The streets were lined not with courtiers, but commoners. Some cheered, some cried. When she stumbled, she apologized to her executioner. "Pardon me, sir, I did not do it on purpose." Her dignity unshaken. History remembers two plates, one heavy with sugared violets, one empty but for stale bread, one a symbol of Versailles, one a mirror of Paris. Between them stretched a nation's rage. Between them, the monarchy fell. Her taste for luxury left its imprint, not in politics, but in pastry. French patisserie bears her ghost, ornate, delicate, excessive. The croissant, perhaps inspired by her Austrian Kipfel. The croquembouche, now a wedding centerpiece. Her downfall fed a revolution. Her taste, a culinary empire. Walk through the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, where her feet once glided. Visit the Petit Trianon, her private escape. Read Antonia Fraser's Marie Antoinette, The Journey. Watch Sofia Coppola's film, with its dreamy pastels and tragic heartbeat. See the conciergerie where her crown became a burden. Marie Antoinette did not cause the revolution, but she embodied its tipping point. She was not villain nor saint, but vessel of ignorance, of myth, of beauty in a world collapsing. Her story is not just hers, it's ours. A warning, a mirror, a lesson in what happens when privilege forgets perspective. The plates have long since cleared. The halls are museums now, but echoes remain. The clang of cutlery over silence, the scent of sugar in winter, and a question, lingering like candle smoke. What do we ignore today that history will one day hold to account? If this story stirred something in you, subscribe for more tales where food, power, and memory entwine. Next week, we explore Episode 2, The Philosopher and the Fire, Rousseau's Dangerous Dream. Until then, walk gently through history. It is always closer than it seems.